In this video overview / speed run, I'll show my process on using your own custom mesh and body rig for your metahumans. I use Blender, Faceform Wrap, and Mesh Morpher to achieve these results. So you can use any DCC for the Blender or wrapping parts, but Mesh Morpher you definitely are going to need for transferring the DNA to the non-metahuman mesh and rig. I'll just be giving the cliff notes on this process. Eventually I may update my Metahuman Wizardry course to this process. So if you've purchased or will purchase the course before then, you'll definitely have free access to this new course as well. Enjoy the video. To start off, I use a Metahuman mesh to wrap around my custom 3D mesh that I'll be using at the end with this Metahuman. I then come into Unreal Engine and open up Mesh Morpher to create the base morph that I'll be using for this Metahuman. Since the mesh doesn't include the eyes or the mouth components, they're going to be a little bit screwed up once you create this morph, but we'll fix that in the next part. I use Mesh Morpher's restore function to bring things back to their original spot on the Metahuman, but I'm going to export this as an OBJ to Blender so I can fix it in here. So here I put the mouth into place, also the eyeballs, adjust them so they fit my custom mesh. The other eye components like the lacrimal, the cartilage, and the eyelashes I'm just going to place and I'll fix them in Mesh Morpher. Back in Mesh Morpher I'm going to create my secondary morph from my original morph that I did. And then I'm going to blend the two to create a third morph, which is the one where I could fix the eye components. And I'm going to do a relative restore and then fix the eye shells manually, so I could save this morph target as our final one before baking. In Mesh Morpher's poser, I'm going to create a bone snapshot, which will move all my bones into place. And then from here, I'll create my final mesh and bake it down. So here it is. I'm going to test it in Sequencer with a retargeted animation I had for the face. As you can see, some of the eyeballs are kind of popping out like the eyelids, so I'm going to fix them using DNA expressions in Morpher to fix the eyelid bones and bake them to DNA expressions. I also have to fix things like the eye directions, the look up, look down, right, left, eye widen, all those things. So I fix them as well in DNA expressions. So we test the animation again. As you can see, the eye is looking pretty good. I duplicate the mesh, reopen in Mesh Morpher poser, and I adjust the mouth so I can have it open and the eyelids slightly closed. This is going to be for the process of weight painting and transferring onto my custom mesh. So here I'm exporting the OBJ and I'm bringing it into Blender. Once I have it in Blender, I can export another OBJ once I remove the components, so just leave the head skin and rewrap with the mouth open. This way I can transfer all my weights onto the custom mesh that I have now. So now in Blender I'm going to create a shape key for the mouth open and keep my original shape key with it closed. This way I can utilize it with the original Metahuman closed mouth. Transfer the FBX of the original Metahuman with the open mouth, and I transfer all my weights here. I remove certain weights like head, neck, things like that, and also remove some of the bones like the spine, the clavicle, arms, things like that. And I also go through and create my custom rig for the body. Make sure all my facial vertex weights are locked, so once I bind the rig to the body it doesn't overwrite my facial weights. So here I'm going to join the skeletal meshes together, the Metahuman Face mesh rig and then my custom rig as custom bones, and I'll parent it to the head bone of my custom rig. Here I'm using Auto Rig Pro, which is pretty good. It allows me to create a mannequin rig and make custom bones. I'm also going to run a script to add the facial weights to the body weights correctly and normalize everything, so everything comes through correctly. I also make sure to delete the head.x vertex weight from the custom body rig and rename my Metahuman facial rig head weight to head.x. This way the head weights are correct. I double check all my weights and it's ready to export to Unreal Engine. When I import the rig into Unreal Engine, I bring it in as an sk_mannequin for the skeletal mesh. Let's open up Mesh Morpher, and we're going to go to Tools and Transfer DNA. Here we're going to open up our custom mesh, which is stylized rig. I'm going to change the start bone to the facial C_facial root, and I'm going to turn off expression zeroed. Click OK. This might take a second. Next, we have to create an animation blueprint for this stylized rig. So create an animation blueprint. Just make a basic one. We'll do load input pose and the rig logic node. Compile that. Also add that to the post process of the mesh. Don't show it here, but I also added the Metahuman Face control rig to the rig section of this mesh. Go ahead and save. Now we can test out the blinks. You can see we get some weird deformations there, and that's due to the deformer graph being not added in there. Now it's all set. Now we test everything else. Everything is working on this custom mesh. We'll also test it in sequencer just to double check. And as we can see, everything is working. Test out some retargeted animation as well. Now we can go ahead and add the body. And we could see everything is put together well with no seams. It's all one mesh. Note here, you could also add in your control rig for the body, which is using the mannequin control rig. But that should also work. I guess the next question would be, what about the eyes, the eyeballs, and all the components, the mouth? You can add that as a separate thing, either as like custom meshes that you can weight paint, bring those in with your custom mesh and rig, or you can just make a duplicate of the Metahuman mesh, the original one, and remove the skin, separate the layers. Here I've separated the eyeballs as individual parts, the eye components like eyelashes, cartilage, all that stuff, and also the mouth as another separate piece because they already have weight paints on them, which I can bring in using Mesh Morpher using the attach feature. For the individual eyes, I just use the parenting option with no transfer weights, and I parent it to each eye. And the other components, I use the same method but without a parent bone, no transfer weights because it already has weights. Here you go. They should be all merged together. Here we just fix some of the materials for the eyes. So for the other components, here I made the irises a bit bigger, and here you go. Here's pretty much the complete character minus the additional texturing and all that stuff that you would have to do. Hope you got some insight into my process. I hope to update the Metahuman Wizardry course with this new process. Just make sure to subscribe to keep updated and stay tuned.